Hi, my name's Steve Usher, and welcome to the Experienced Designers podcast. Over the course of this podcast series, I'm really excited to meet and interview people from a diverse range of industries and backgrounds. However, they will all share one thing in common, and that is design thinking and human-centered design. And I hope that by sharing their stories, together we can create our own movement in the HR and talent acquisition community. And this is where I genuinely believe design thinking can play a massive part in improving the experience during the hiring, onboarding, and employee experience. So for my first episode, I thought it would be really fitting to go back to a place that really inspired me this year. And that was the Design Thinkers Academy in Amsterdam. And I got the opportunity to spend more time with Arne, who is one of the co-founders. And we talked about a huge variety of topics, ranging from artificial intelligence and machine learning through to an amazing segment on empathy. And of course, we talked design thinking as well. So strap yourselves in, enjoy the show, and here we go. So Arne, welcome to the Experienced Design Show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of my first ever podcast today.
My pleasure.
Excellent. So we are here in Amsterdam at the Design Thinkers Academy HQ, which is such a wonderful space. So any excuse to come back here is always, I always take it, definitely. So today I'd like to cover off quite a few things if possible, and just have a good conversation about design thinking and get your views on how you see certain things in the world from a DT point of view. So just, I guess, for the listeners, from your perspective, just a little bit about yourself, an intro into, just you and your background.
Okay. Well, I'm the founder of Design Thinkers Group, Design Thinking Academy, now 11 years ago, a little bit more actually. So I'm getting old. And I can tell, seriously, there's like pictures of me in the videos that we still show in like training sessions. Just now, downstairs, there was a video of me doing a project, and it was on, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm getting old. Oh my God, what's happening? So it's 11 years old. So, we went through, a huge evolution. My company, my organization, our network, the community. So there's so much stuff to talk about. But I think mainly our kind of what happened to us the decade that we've been busy, with design thinking and service design and what have you, is that we went from here in Amsterdam, at least in the Netherlands, we went from a sort of a more consultancy mindset to a facilitation, training, coaching kind of organization, where we felt that actually it's about teaching, and be a teacher. And then me personally as well, I kind of found like, both being a teacher and creating a platform for knowledge to be shared. Those are the things that are, I think, to us, the most important things that happened. Yeah.
And how is that? How would you say, I guess, from your own perspective, how has the business kind of evolved from where it was from that first day one, I guess, to where it is now? How has that kind of developed?
So I mean, when I started being interested in service design, really, in design thinking as well, but mainly service design. That's probably like 15 years ago or so with my previous agency. I was so I fell in love with this openness and this collaborative spirit, and this, everyone who was kind of active in that space would share their methodologies, and I love that. And I was in an agency where it was very competitive, and it's my customer and your customer, and and I won't, totally not share, because just alone in the Netherlands, like this little tiny country, we had like thousands of agencies just like us, right? So it was so much stuff, but there was also a lot of work. Obviously, it was a healthy market, but I was kind of fed up with both this attitude of not collaborative attitude, like the close the doors and isolated working from other people. And I met so many inspirational people, and I thought, wow, I would love to work with these people, but I couldn't because not in my agency, et cetera, et cetera. And I really, really, really wanted to work with clients on their, the questions they had, and not only, work with the solution they already came up with, because usually they were crappy solutions. And they just, as an agency, you were given sort of the task to put a nice ribbon in a nice box, or a nice collar on it, but you can't really change the solution. And I wanted to kind of be part of where there was still a question. So that was sort of the thing. So I love that openness, and I love this kind of this promise of being part of sort of the question. And when we started, there was sort of a kind of a thing, because it's a very traditional thought saying, so we're going to design a service, for instance. Yeah. And I never really made the difference that much between products and services, because it's about the value that you create. So it's the same thing anyway. But I did kind of think, okay, so we're going to design a service together with our client, and they're going to implement that, right? So now I've been in the business for quite a while. I worked at corporate, and but still, that was sort of in my mind. So that's what we would do, because that's the service that we would provide to our clients. Help them create a beautiful service and a beautiful service experience, etc. Obviously, that's not how things go, because they cannot implement it, because that's not really, it's not about ideas. They had lots of ideas, and so what we found quite quickly is that you can do lots of workshops, 1 day workshop, 2 day workshops, and everybody loves you, and it's fantastic, and they go home like, hey, high five, man.
But what next?
And then the next day is like nothing. It's silence.
Business as usual.
Nothing happens. Business as usual.
Yeah.
Nothing will be implemented. Obviously, nothing will be changed, because it is not about. So the whole mantra of service design and design thinking, it starts with the end user. Nonsense. It doesn't start with the end user. It starts with understanding the system. It starts with understanding all the players, and usually the first, the hairy challenge, the big problem is internal. It is about the mess businesses really are. The total chaos, mess, and emotional stuff that goes on within organizations, and then get stuff done that is beautiful, and it's no way.
So Arne, so say somebody's listened to this section just now and suddenly had an epiphany, or been inspired, and said, right, I want to make change in my organization, create a movement. How from your perspective, what does design thinking, I guess, play a part in that, if for those that perhaps haven't been exposed to this way of thinking or this way of working?
Yeah. So first of all, a little bit about design thinking. Design thinking is just these are words like lean startup, like service design, like UX, like agile, like these words. What they mean is that we're looking for a solution, and different people with different backgrounds came up with ideas, and they gave it a name. But the underlying problem is the same. Yeah. So we're all trying to solve the same problem. We all try to kind of find a methodology or a system or a way of thinking that helps us out of this problem, out of this systemic problem. Become more human-centered, to be able to experiment, to be able to be free, basically, to do the things we're passionate about, et cetera, et cetera. It's all the same. There is no difference. Yes. It is just that it comes from different angles, from different people with different baggage, people with different knowledge of methodologies, and et cetera, et cetera. Like lean startup comes from someone who understood lean, right? So, all right, fine. So that design thinking, in my opinion, tries to create a common language and tries to be a mindset saying, I just want to know what the problem is. I don't care about the methodologies and the tools. Yeah. I don't want to have a hammer. I'll choose my tool when I know if it's a nail or not, right? So I don't care if it's this thing. I heard someone say that they had like a black belt in design thinking. What the hell is going on?
Six Sigma and DT coming together.
What is that? That's impossible. who gave you that idea?
Wow.
Right. So, but exactly that.
People make things up. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, because it sells, it's productizing this thing.
Yes.
So, right. So design thinking becomes part of this sales. It's the board, right? We're going to assimilate it into a system.
Interesting.
And so, I'm in my spaceship, trying to fight back, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. Anyway, we're the resistance. Yay. Well, kind of, it feels a bit like that. It feels like we're in the resistance and, against this system that tries to swallow us and eat us alive and assimilate us. So design thinking is this mindset, is this way of thinking saying, listen, if you have the right question, you are probably halfway there to find an answer, right? And I don't care which tools. If you're a chef, and you're a really good cook, and yourself, you make your recipes. Who cares? You find new recipes, you find new ingredients, and you make stuff up, right? It's but you know what you're doing. If you start cooking, you don't really have a lot of experience. You need recipe, right? And I think a lot of people are on recipe level. They're like, okay, so it's 6 steps, all right, step 1, people, pay attention. Step 1 is
100 milligrams
empathy. All right, go out and talk to people. All right, so. Right. And then, right. So, that's not the point. That's not, it might work and might be great to but that's a recipe. So, and if you are, if you haven't practiced cooking and you're not a chef and Jamie Oliver is right next to you and in your kitchen telling you exactly what to do, you still won't cook as good as he does. It's like, it's irritating, but you won't. No. Of course you won't. Right. And so, but in order to become Jamie Oliver, you have to practice. You have to do it a lot. Basically, do it. That's how we learn how to ride a bicycle. So, if you cannot practice, meaning fall down, try. Practice means you couldn't do it. Right? Practice means I can't do it. It's not practice. Is not like let's do it right all the time. Practice means fail
forward.
Let's fail. Let's play out of tune totally because you can't play piano because you haven't done it before, right? So you have to practice, and then you can become really good at it. So this feeling of we have to have instant knowledge and instant capabilities, and let's go to a 2-day training session, people, and let's get this design thinking stuff down, right? It's like no.
So how would you? So let's say you're sitting in a business and there is this this instant. World that we live in, we want everything now. But in order to really get the full value of design thinking, you have to fail forward and go through various iterations and, fail and try. But sometimes people don't have that time because, there's so much pressure and there's so much, going on in the business and everybody's always busy. So how do we strike that balance to get people, is there maybe a smaller way to get into to trial something in maybe a smaller piece and then grow it that way? Or
sure. Of course.
Some people may go, oh my God, I haven't got time to fail or to practice lots of time.
Yes, you do. You will fail anyway. So, we all do all the time. The point is that you make it explicit. You say, oh yeah, right. These projects that we do, we fail all the time, except we don't make it explicit. We don't say so. We don't look at it. We hide our mistakes. That's the problem. It's not about let's do some design thinking, people. And no, it's like it's common sense. Design thinking is common sense. It's everything but not doing because you think you're not allowed, or all that stuff that you in the back of your head, that little voice saying, yeah, maybe we should do it differently, or maybe our clients really know that our product is shitty, but we'll just go ahead anyway. And this prototype doesn't really work. But we put so much money into it, and we are so far ahead in the project, we can't go back. We have to go forward. All that. Say that out loud. Put it on a Post-it, and it will solve everything. Post-its basically solve everything. So give some Post-its to everyone, and the world will be fine. Yeah, no. But seriously, make it explicit. It's about that. It's about what is the real problem. What is the elephant in the room? Let's say it's about common sense. It's nothing new. So people listening and saying, yeah, but we all know that. That's nothing new. Is that design thinking? Is that stuff that everybody talks about? Mm-hmm. Listen, it is about, let's just say what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? And make it explicit. And oh, by the way, share it with each other. because, that will help, and make your assumptions clear, because then you will kind of challenge your assumptions. And if you challenge your assumptions, you will come up with new ideas and blah, 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 blah. It's common sense. It's so basic stuff.
Yes.
And it's so hard to do because we're stuck in these nasty systems that don't allow us to do so. You cannot sit in a meeting and say, by the way, this meeting, is not really working. You're like, what? Jim, what are you saying? So I think this is all crappy. We're a crappy company and we should do things differently. All right. So people are stuck they play a part in their business. They enter the door into the company and they change. They're like, now I'm Jim, the manager. I'm supposed to act this way and I'm supposed to be knowledgeable. I am the expert, so I know what to do. But you don't. No. You don't, Jim. You don't.
So what would be kind of the situation or a typical situation in a business that leans well to then going down this path of solving their problems using the toolkits or the design thinking approach? So is there kind of certain things that you see that with clients you've worked with or engaged with, you go, actually, this one is definitely going to move in the right direction because of X, Y, Z, or this one is really is not perhaps going to move as well because of X, Y, Z? Is there any distinction between ones that do take the step and the ones that don't?
Well, there's a distinction. Usually it has to do with the size of the company, because, companies with 200, 300,000 people, employed and who bought all kinds of companies in the past to grow and buy their innovation, they usually, it's so difficult. There are pockets of resistance in the company, right? So you used the word movement earlier on, and I think that's the key. Don't do a project, start a movement internally. Start a movement. It will. So if you just think about it, just do the thought experiment. What if it was a movement? What should you do differently? Because if it's a movement, people can join it. People can join it voluntarily. That's what you really want. That would be the best way, right? Yeah. We have a movement of people who say, I'm passionate, I want to be part of this. So make it into a movement and learn about how to do this. Learn about what creates a movement. What is a movement? How does that work? Because it also means you have to become a different leader. So it's about, a new kind of creative leadership, which I'm very passionate about. So we see companies where there are creative leaders, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's on C-level. It doesn't mean these are people who are in management positions. Sometimes they are, but having creative leaders in your company who can create a movement, who can create sort of a platform for people to join and to be part of and understand this leadership, what leadership actually means. That's what I also mean with facilitation. You facilitate this movement, and you create a platform. So we see companies that are doing that. Mm-hmm. The difference between sort of the old companies, the dinosaurs that have been around for a long time, and relatively newer companies, that's a significant difference. That's a big difference. Yeah. New companies are usually, they don't have the hierarchy. They're pancake companies, right? They're very different. They're faster. They're relatively small. They're working in ecosystems. Yeah. That's where the future is. The future is in networks. The future is companies again, it's about making things explicit sometimes and making things like visual. Like we all work in networks, ecosystems. Everyone, I was joking about Apple, but it's not one company. No. All right. No company on this planet is one company. We are networks. We are networks anyway, because we're people working and using the same logo, basically, right? But we're a network we're a community of people doing this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then we are a network of all kinds of businesses working together, right? And I believe that the future is, and that's what we're seeing, a relatively small core, small business working in an ecosystem. So there's hubs and nodes. There's this system, but then very explicit. So you don't have to become a big company to make a big impact. You don't have to be, the core can be quite small, really. And we see that all the time. I mean, there's lots of companies that are very small. If you think about like companies like Instagram, for instance, they're like there's only a few people working there. It's like, really? And they make a global impact, right?
Yes.
So that's the new company.
Yes.
And now they're being assimilated by the board.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means, but but I do know that those are the companies that will work. And I think that healthy companies in future will slim down. They will be cutting away, all the stuff all the branches they don't need. And they will go back to a core that is meaningful. So, for instance, a Dutch company, Philips, again, I can't predict the future, but what they do, I think is so awesome. Somehow they've seen years ago, I don't know when they started doing this, but it's a long, long time ago, that healthcare is going to be a big, big growth market and very important. And it's going to touch everything in our, in this world, because it touches everything in our lives,
yes.
right? Health and healthcare. So they started cutting away all the other stuff. So television, even lights.
Yeah,
they even cut away the light. That's what they are about.
Yeah.
That's the core. People were shocked. You're like, what? But that is, what else is it? And they are focusing on health and healthcare. And they have a purpose of making, I can't remember the number, but because they actually have a real number as well, X amount, millions of people more healthy each year.
Amazing.
So their purpose is to make people better each year, X amount. So that does something to people working there.
Absolutely.
I mean, still internally, it's still, like I said, a mess, and then shit goes on all the time. Of course. Yeah. But imagine going to a birthday party or something. Where do you work? I work at Philips. And what do you guys do? We make people better. That's what we do. That's what we're about. You're proud of that, right? Instead of saying, we'll do well, and we do television, and we do, and we do whatever, all the the Procter and Gamble's of this planet. Like we do. Why do you do what you do? I don't know. You just make money, right? Philips is also about making money, sure, because they have shareholders, etc. But I love that going back to, as an example, you go back to a core of something you believe in and something that you're really passionate about, something that makes sense to people, and you try and do this, right? So actually, you could make the calculation. So what do we need to get that? What do we need to make these people better? It's a great question. It's like, okay, so I can do something with that. I love that. And even, as an outsider, we the work we do with them, you're always like, I love working with Philips. I love working with them, because even though sometimes it's the same kind of project I could do for another company, but it's part of this making people better, so that is important. And so we see that companies who do that, in my opinion, are doing something really good, really awesome, and they don't have to be that big. And yes, and of course, Philips is, in that sense, again, a traditional company, because they start buying up all these healthcare companies. So it's not ideal, but I do believe that if you look at companies in the future, it will be companies who are small core and they work in an ecosystem. That's what it's going to be.
So I'm going to...
by the way, a tip there's an awesome book called The Connected Company by David Gray about this Connected Company. Yeah.
Connected Company.
Yeah, it's actually...
Something you mentioned, and I'm going to dare to approach it, AI and machine learning.
Again,
another, it's everywhere right now.
Sure.
So, and I think, with all of the technology and the data and everything kind of that is happening out there, I think the people and the human aspects still, I think now form even more important than ever, particularly when companies are designing, I guess, experiences or journeys or all of these pieces. So it's just, what's your view around that? And just in terms of people keeping, really, I think just keeping a mind of the human, as it were, the human aspect, and not getting too lost that actually machines or tech is actually going to solve our problem, solve the problem.
I think that's such a fantastic, interesting, intriguing topic, because there's so many aspects of it that makes no sense and are, one, for instance, do we really want this? No, of course not. But because why? But it's an arms race, right? So if we don't do it, they will do it. So let's get some stuff. So I want my chair to tell me exactly how much I weigh and if I'm healthy or not. No, I don't. Get away from me. But no, it will happen anyway. My vacuum cleaner should have a conversation with my refrigerator behind my back. All right. I heard someone say the other day, I don't know where, Baltics, I think. I was at a table and there were two ladies talking, and I was just listening to their conversation. And the one lady said to the other lady, it's so annoying. My vacuum cleaner just has no learning curve. Like, what? What are you talking about? Your vacuum cleaner has no? Yeah, because it keeps bumping into the same table. It's every time it just doesn't. And I thought, wow, this is amazing, because you have this. They have this robot vacuum cleaner, and friends of mine, they have this lawnmower, right? So it just goes. It just does the lawn, every now and then, when it feels like it, I guess. And it has this little house and this little thing, and it's like a dog, really, in the yard. And it goes, and they are like, oh, there, and they call him Hank, and they go, there's Hank again, and he's like, oh, I did something. But he also bumps into he's so stupid, he keeps bumping into the tree, and he has to go back into his dock, all right? So it's charging it, and it takes him a couple of times. And they're like, look at that. It's like, we are so stupid. People are stupid. People are really stupid. It's this robot, these videos of Boston Robotics, I think they're called. You see this robot dog, and they tries to open the door, and they kick the door closed again, or there's a robot that tries to pick up a box, and they kind of hit the box out of his hand, and we're like, we're emotionally attached to these wires and these kind of these electrical wires and this metal. But I think this is a really important point they're making. If in this room now there was a robot, it looked like a human being, even if it doesn't look like, even it doesn't matter if it looks like whatever it looks like, but it responds to me, I will be like, and if you tease it, I will be like, don't tease it. It's like, I will accept it as one of our own immediately. Yes. It's fine. Yes. Yeah, right. So I think it's interesting because, the difference between human beings and artificial intelligence, and we can say, but it doesn't know it's there. It will never be a human being. Yeah, it will never be conscious. And it's like, I don't know, some people I'm doubting whether they're conscious actually, but it doesn't, that's fine if it's conscious or not. Yeah. But I will still love it and defend it. And I will still go I will give it somehow by projection, I guess, I will turn it into a human being. So we are stupid like that. So so there's that's interesting. So that's I don't know what's going to happen there. I know that chatbots can fool us already. Yeah, chatbots you will think it's a human being, and it's fine. It's amazing, and we won't recognize it as a chatbot, right? So it's scary, totally scary. It's I don't know what's going to happen, but people are stupid, so it's probably going to do something terrible. People will turn it into some kind of weapon or something terrible because they do that all the time. Yeah. That's what scares me. All right. So the other thing is that it also means that what's the difference between us then and those machines and those robots and that intelligence? It's creativity still is. I don't know if it's going to be that forever, but it is at least something that we can do. We can be totally stupid. That's actually, so I call us, humans are stupid. That's our quality. Yes. We can do stupid things like, why would you do that? Hey, wait a minute. That's actually pretty cool. Why? I didn't wash my hands after doing this experiment. Hey, that tastes sweet. Oh, I discovered sugar, a sweetener. But that's how we discover things. A robot won't do that. It won't go like, oh, that was a mistake. Oh, wait a minute. And I was like, oops. Oh, serendipity. We are masters if we want to be, by the way. Yes. Yes. We can be the masters of serendipity. And that's basically creativity. That's lateral thinking. That is like thinking in options. That is kind of doing things that make no sense. Yes. We do things that make no sense all the time. So we're going to be really good at this. So we have that covered. So I think the difference between us and artificial intelligence is that we're basically stupid. So that's great. Yes. It's going to be fine. The other thing is that I think that it's going to probably disrupt so many things. So the point of design thinking in this topic is, first of all, we know we need creativity. We need to kind of have an understanding of how can we use our creativity, our ability to come up with not logical stuff, but do stuff that make no sense and build something valuable out of it. How can we use our humanity, our empathy, to understand each other, to build bridges, et cetera, to create cultures and societies, et cetera, et cetera. So design thinking and all the other buzzwords out there are trying to do that, or are trying to kind of make humanize systems, right? So because we need that.
Yeah.
So design, not just designers, but people who are designers and people who have a designer mindset or a creative mindset or an open mindset or are capable of lateral thinking, whatever, creative people who are generalists. We need them in that conversation. And now it's only technical people. It's only people who are building the systems. The IT people are ruling the planet.
Yeah. Data and
my gosh, IT people are ruling. That's not good. So we need people who can say, wait a minute, are there people in this equation? Are there like human beings there? So why do we do this? And how can we orchestrate this? How can we design that? So we need people with the design mindset, with the design skills to be part of that conversation. Actually, I think they should lead that conversation.
Yes.
Movement. So that's actually something else I'm going to, this is one of my other ventures. We have this creative leadership program where that is a big part of it. So it's part of that program as well to say, how, we need to understand as designers or people, with this creative mindset or design thinkers or whatever you want to call them, to be part of that. And so what's going on? How can we be part? How we can be creative, put some creative leadership in that? Because I think that's important, really, really important.
So Arne, I've got one last area I'd like to discuss with you today, which I know is close to your heart, actually. And you're actually running a conference here in Amsterdam in October, which actually focuses on this very subject, which is around empathy. And I came across a very short video, that piece of video content that you shot here on LinkedIn. I think I saw it. And there was a few things in there that really captured me. And kind of, wow, okay, this is really interesting around empathy and kind of the focus around looking inside of ourselves, which I really just wanted to bring to this podcast because I thought it was really fascinating. I'd love to understand a little bit more about your thinking on that.
Yeah. So empathy is one of those words that is thrown around when you're in a workshop, sort of design thinking, UA, whatever. So it's about this attempt to become human centered, and then empathy is kind of a logical kind of word to use. Like you have to look at the world through someone else's eyes. You have to, walk in someone else's shoes, etc. So it's fine. I think that's really good. I think that's it's important, but I also have a problem with it because it becomes something of it's because it's not that easy. I don't want to kind of discourage anyone. So I'm hesitating a little bit, but because I think it's important. You have to do your personas. Do your journey maps. Of course you have to do that because that's a start, right? But that's not empathy. It is the start, and it is starting to understand someone, and it is starting to understand why people do what they do, because that's basically what we do with design research and qualitative research is not understanding just what people do, but why they do it. Yeah. Because you need that in order to create an intervention and to create prototype, etc. Fine, but we tend to kind of, again, because of the systems that we're part of, we don't want to be vulnerable, right? So we take ourselves out of that equation. We say, well, it's not about me, but it is about you. It is empathy. So I'm really inspired by an author called Brené Brown.
Okay.
So Brené is not Brené, but then with a B, Brené Brown. So she has amazing books, great TEDx talk about this. So one of her things is it is about finding a place inside of you that connects to the other. And the other day someone said, yeah, of course, because if you can't let anything in, it's not going to make the connection. So how can you have empathy if you don't allow it to come into you, yeah, right? Of course. So it's impossible. So it starts with you. It starts with you understanding something about yourself. So again, common sense. If you are in a relationship and you're not okay with yourself, there's some issues, and your relationship is going to struggle, right? Because it's part of, if you feel great and no one is perfect and we have all these issues and stuff like that, that's usually what we're struggling with, right? If you are totally okay with yourself and you know what your weakness is and what, because again, that's a good thing for your relationship, right? The chances are your relationship will benefit from that, right? Yes. And if both of you are okay with you, so fine. Okay, that's logic, fine. So I kind of want to translate that into the business we're in, not only into research saying, so if you want to really understand someone, you have to kind of, dig inside of yourself to kind of connect to that person. But if you are a company and you're not okay with yourself, you don't know why you do what you do, it's all that. How can you expect then to create a real meaningful relationship with people, with anyone, with your employees, with your customers? That's not logical. That makes no sense. That's not going to happen. So again, empathy not only meaning, well, let's do some user research and start understanding why people bought this phone and not that phone. No, it's about, it's a lot deeper, and it's really complicated. It's difficult because it's about vulnerability. People. It's about people, and it's about vulnerability. It's about opening up and doing it and going to the place where we talk about real things, like real life things, like things that are actually, part of life, and not just all this marketing sales mumbo jumbo. It's just real stuff, which is painful, but it's where things are happening. This is what happens. This is, so.
Wow. I mean, imagine achieving that though. I mean, imagine moving through a period of vulnerability to actually have that connection. That would be so much more meaningful, and just everything it would be amazing.
But the thing is that if imagine a company that has a clear purpose, and they really mean that. That's really serious. They really mean that they want to do this thing, and it's and everything they do. It also means that they can hire the people that connect to that. They can, and their clients will connect to that. And that's the ideal situation. So I know it's difficult, but if that's the ideal situation, let's work towards that, right? So let's go and try and achieve that. And of course, it's not because it's difficult. It is about people, and it's emotional, and it's challenging, but it's real. So let's do something that is real. So the conference is basically, again, it's my part of my resistance saying, I really want to go deep into that. I don't want to kind of let's just jump over those. Oh yeah, empathy right there. Let's stop. Wait, so hold on. Wait a minute. Design thinking is about empathy. Let's talk about that for a while. Let's go and invite some people over who are not from our bubble, who have experienced using design thinking. Empathy in the fields. So one of our speakers is a lady, and she's amazing. Her job is to negotiate in armed conflicts. She has never heard of design thinking, by the way. She goes to Iran and Iraq, and she talks to people who we call terrorists or rebels or what have you, and she tries to kind of negotiate so they give up their guns. That's basically her end goal, is to take the guns away from them, right? So she says, you can't go up to these people and say, you're bad people, you're terrorists, give me your guns. Please? No, of course not. So this takes years. She says, I have to start really understand how it happened to be that they're in that situation. How did they end up there? Then you start talking about their lives, you start really understanding them. And then you start understanding all the micro decisions they made and the situations they were in their lives. And then you start realizing, we're not that different. Would I have responded differently?
Yeah.
Cause
and effect.
Yeah, right? Because you don't, maybe not.
Yeah.
So, and then you achieve something, because then you connect to them and they feel it, and then you have really good conversations. And she said, and then every now and then I walk away from a meeting with my arm full of guns, and I bring them to a place where they'll be destroyed and they will never kill anyone again. Amazing. And that's, as I was talking about, amazing jobs, but it's just like, what am I doing? It's amazing. So that lady teaches you something about empathy and the power of it, because she's not from our design bubble, and she just needs to do this, otherwise it doesn't work. So I love that, and really it helps you because it tells you something you maybe already know. But it makes it so, like, it confronts you, right, with it. And we work with this neuroscientist who also works with magicians, and he says, we work with magicians all the time because they know how your brain works. Because your brain fools you, like you said earlier, it fools you all the time. It's terrible, right? And we need it because it's part of our, how we communicate with each other, and how we, that's how we can live together. But sometimes you have to know that your brain is, screwing with you. It's not real. So neuroscientists and magicians know.
I mean, and they're all going to be in the same room in October?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, they know, because Magicians know, like, if I show you this and I do this, your brain is going to kind of totally not notice that I'm going to do something different, because you don't see, because you're basically blind, really, right? Like when you're in a room that you know really well, you're actually blind. You don't see it. That's why
your machine takes over.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a really weird idea, right? Oh, we're blind. Nice, interesting.
In fact, I think was it Stephen Peters, The Chimp Paradox. That's a good book.
Yeah,
just some of that stuff, in terms of that.
Definitely. But so, if you're interested, again, if you are interested in creativity and understanding people and empathy, read those books, right? Read about behavioral science, read Thinking Fast and Slow. Don't read books about design thinking, don't read books about service design or UX, please. Are you stupid? Those are they just tell you what you already know and what you want to hear. Read books that challenge you. Read books that are, seriously, behavioral science is amazing. And read the book Shame by Brené Brown. It's about shame. It's called I Thought I Was Just Me. Although I halfway through the book, because she talks about shame, it's really, because that goes really deep, right? So that's all the stuff you don't want to talk about. So one of her things is like, how do you do research about something that no one really wants to talk about, right? But it's powerful. It's amazing. It's also an audiobook, so listen to it. Yes. It's just that halfway through I thought it's just about women. There's no example. So she talks about all the examples, all the research that she did, and halfway through, is there like an example of a male kind of example of men being shamed or something? So that's the only thing. I'm like, all right. So I understand everything about women and shame now.
Well, I think that's a nice end to the podcast. It's perfect. So thank you so much. That was really good and quite deep and. Amazing. And that's exactly where we wanted it to be. So that was amazing. Right. So thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, good luck with this.
Thank you. And there you have it, my very first podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and please follow me at The Experienced Designers and be part of the movement by sharing and rating this podcast. And until the next time, bye for now.